Okay, can you see my desktop?
Yes, sir.
Okay. If you go down, you will see that I have shared a data set with all of you called cheese data set. So it has essentially three data files: retailer underscore ds, ct underscore ds, and values underscore ds. Ds stands for data set. So retailer has all retailer information. So basically this is a very popular board and cheese, sliced cheese data set. And so the readme file has all the descriptions. And what you have is let me actually show you in the R. So if you download this data set, it will download as a, I think, zip file. And then you have to open it and put it in somewhere. And you will find in the data set, in the cheese data set, you will have these 4 files. Other than readme, these 3 are the data files. So if you run this, then you have this 46 observation with 2 variable. City names: Los Angeles, Chicago, Houston, Pittsburgh. 46 city of the United States, and each state is with the city ID. Okay, then I think retailer is another. DS is okay. So it has 50 retailer. Okay, I think 50 retailer, unique retailer. So these are all, Lucky, Ralph's, Dominic, Jewel, Omni, Kroger. These are like, big general store like Big Bazaar or Reliance Smart kind of thing. All over the Shop and Shop, all over the, they're like big chains all over the United States. And the main data, these two files, CT data set and the retailer data set, these are typically called the metadata. And then actual data set is in the value.ds. Oops. Um, values.ts. So the values has 5,555 observations on 5 variables. The first 2 variables are the city ID and the retailer ID. And then each of them, and then it has 3 variables. The value of the 3 variables: one is the volume, another is the display activity, another is the price. And so volume stands for number of units sold in a week. DISP stands for display activity in a week, and price stands for price per unit. So if you multiply price per unit into volume, you will get the revenue. Okay, so if you just multiply this column with this column element wise, you will get the revenue for that week, for that retailer and that in that city. So same city might have 3 different retailer. In the same city there could be 3 different chain can be available. Also same retailer can have existence in 5 different cities. So like you can see that the retailer 7, whatever be that, is available in city ID 3. Also retailer 7 is available in city ID 5. So the same retailer has two store in two different city 3 and city 5. So can anybody tell me why? And this way of storing the database management, managing the data, is very popular actually. I mean, I could have clearly write the city ID here, the city name and the retailer name. No problem, right?
Sir, we could like use some join code to query the name
No,
from.
that is how you want to implement it. I could have say city ID.
Oh,
Look,
okay. So, sir, since the name is a string, it would be difficult to query the thing. Like
well,
I mean, there could be case sensitive issues. So it's like
actually, there is a bigger advantage than that. Yes, I understand what you are trying to say.
I think the seeing that representation also, I mean, city IDs also would have the numbers would come from a representation distribution. Sorry. So numbers make it easy to find what kind of distribution it is following.
No, it has more. It's nothing to do with the probability statistics.
Data to avoid it could be repeated data you need therefore.
Repeated data. What happens if it repeats? You are on the right track. Your thinking is on the right track, but think about it a little harder.
So you are talking about whether we want to add a city name with city ID, correct?
Correct. So I, instead of city ID, I could have, suppose first, what is the city ID? First city ID, Los Angeles, right? I could have easily write Los Angeles, Los Angeles, Los Angeles here. Instead of doing that, I said, okay, 111, and I am maintaining another data set where I'm saying one means Los Angeles. Why I am trying to do that?
Saving space, I don't know. I mean,
Yes, exactly. Because you see, the Los Angeles is a string, right? So at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 11 spaces are getting bogged down. So now everywhere that big string is getting there, I'm repeating the same thing. Okay. So what will happen if you take the entire thing, then this main file value underscore ds will be very large file. Instead, now we partition this data set. Wherever the values are getting repeated, we are saying that, okay, we will represent the repeated values with a smaller number, just 1 or 2 or something, which a numeric, which will not take that much of space, and we will save these repeated values in a separate ID. Okay, so in that way we are saving on the space. Okay, but we are losing on another direction. Can you tell me where are we losing?
so could you repeat the question?
Okay, so you got this point that basically by what I am doing, this is my main data. I'm partitioning it into 3 small data with 2 small data set to save the space, right? So I'm reducing the space complexity by partitioning the data, correct? You understand that?
Yes.
That part is fine. But I am gaining in the space, but I will lose in some another direction. Can you think of where I'm losing?
Information.
Sir, if you want to,
No,
if you
information
want to
is,
get the city name, you want to do some computation. So
correct. So basically, every time I want that, okay, this city, how much revenue I have. So every time I have to merge the city name with this, and then I have to do the, or I have to first do the computation for that. I have to find the city ID from here. For that ID, I have to do the computation, and then I have to report that. Okay, or I have to do if I have to find a subset, I have to do a merging and sorting and this kind of thing. So my computational complexity will, like time complexity will increase, and merging and sorting is always a very expensive computation. Okay, but this is all so this is very popular way of maintaining the database, partition the data and store it in this way. See, I mean, given we have 8 GB RAM nowadays in standard computers, or 16 GB, even some of the computers that are available is even stronger laptops are available nowadays. So probably it's not of an issue with these small data sets. But when it scales, I mean, end of the day, you can always, I mean, as the size of the data set is increasing exponentially, end of the day, you will always come up with a data set where it will cross your RAM size or your hard disk size. In that time, these are the best practices you can, if you really want to manage your data disk space, hard disk space, and RAM space, this is a good practice that you can follow. That you just look for the data where the values are repetitive, and these repetitive values you just put it into one small data set, create an ID for each of the values, and these will become a key ID values. But typically it's called key, or ID or something like that. Okay, so what I'm suggesting you guys, get yourself a little bit familiar with data set, these particular data set that I have, cheese data set that I have. I'm going to assign some small assignments on this data set. Of course, there will be some small computations, and then I will ask you to do some plots and stuff like that. Okay, but just get yourself familiar with this data set. I'm going to make some assignments, of course, and then since I don't have resource to grade all these things, and it's not mandatory, what we will do, we will, on the day of deadline, we will just, whoever have done that thing, we will discuss how to solve this, or if there any better way to solve the problems. Okay. Next, I am going to start discussing today the ggplot2. So this is, so I kind of shared you this structure in this is precisely the architecture of the ggplot2. So typically what happens is, you have to first think of the data, what are the data that you want, and what are the geometric object you want, and then layer by layer you have to add the things. So typically the data will be either in a data frame format or there is something called table in these two format. And then there is 3 component effectively that this define the system. Another is then the second component called the aesthetic. When I'm saying that aesthetic, it's the describes the visual characteristic of the data, like which position, size, color, shape, transparency, and all these things. Okay, feel, scales, all these things. And the third thing that is most important, I think, in ggplot2 is the geometry. So in the ggplot2, so when I'm saying geometry, it's whether you want a histogram, whether you want a box plot or scatter plot, because whether you want the points or lines or polygons, all these things. So this is typically called the geometry. And more precisely, it builds on the concept called grammar of graphics. This grammar of graphics effectively on the 7 layers of ideas. The first is you have to figure out whether you want a coordinate system like Cartesian or polar or map projection. Now, when I'm saying map, means literally geographical map, because on the geographical map also you can plot many things. And then geom stands for typically geometry, whether you want the points or lines or polygons. Aesthetic stands for position, size, color, shape. Now scales, for each of the aesthetics you can define whether you want it in a log scale. You can use color as scale, you can use size as scale, you can use shape as scale. So different things you can try. And then the stats, like do you want to plot the counts or means or medians? Do you want a regression line? So what kind of stats you want? Then facets. Typically the idea of facets is you want a subgroup of the data. You take a main data, you suppose, and you create a subsets of the data, and then for each subset you create a graphing system. So now when we will do it hands-on, it will become much more clear to you. So, and the final is the theme. So we will do all these things slowly, one by one. So what we will do first, I'll start with the very basic data set, the empty curves data set. I'll take 2-3 different data set so that you get a, so basically first I will do one and then I will ask you what I will do next. I'll ask you to do something. Okay, just a minute, let me got a check. Oh, but okay, there is no built-in dictionary, but Abhirup, you are saying that I think there is no built-in dictionary and I can get build on using the usual list, I guess. So dictionary of what?
Sir, Arpan asked whether there's a built-in dictionary like it's a data structure with
for whom? Which for the cheese data set, you mean?
No, sir. I mean for anything.
Acha, dictionary, built-in dictionary or hash table. Yeah, I think you can do it in the like R also. I think you can do it in the R also. Dictionary dataset. I think there is a package that you need. I'll get back to you on the same. I'll email you over the same thing. Okay. Probably you have to install a package, just as far as I remember. Okay. All right. So first I'll work with we'll use two data set. One is today's class. One is the MTCars data set. Another is the diamond data set. So the MTCars data set is a small one. It has 32 rows and 11 columns. I think we already discussed it once probably. And then there is another data set, which is diamond data set, which has 53,914 rows, or 53,900, about 54,000 samples and 10 columns. So these are the columns. Okay, so the caret, cart, color. So in fact, if you just say question mark diamonds, so price, so it's a little old data set, I think. Price, caret, cart is a categorical variable. So cart can be fair, good, very good, premium, ideal. So is it a ordinal data or it's a nominal data? Ordinal. Okay. Because there is some kind of natural ordering is there. That's right. Color, diamond color from D best to J worst. So there is also a color is also ordinal. Clarity, measurement of how clear the diamond is. Also there is it's an ordinal thing. Length in millimeter, Y width, and the depth. There is a depth itself. Z is the depth, and they also have calculated the depth in using this formula. And a table. Okay. So table is basically the top of the, I think, diamond, that how big or how flat that diamond is. So we will use these two data set. So first I will, so typically the most important thing probably for a, so the first thing I will do in the MTCars data set, I will try to plot miles per gallon versus mpg versus maybe horsepower. GG plot. So first thing I have to give you the data equal to MTCars, and then aesthetic equal to, what are the things that we have? So maybe horsepower. So X equal horsepower and miles per gallon. And if you just do this, you will see nothing will happen much. Oh, sorry. Yeah. So I was giving that equal to sign. I think that equal to will not be there. Just AES, and within aesthetic, you have to provide the data. So, so now one thing is, if you just write this part, so let me just clear this up. So it will just give you the framework. You can see it's saying that, okay, on x-axis you put the horsepower, and the y-axis you put the miles per gallon, and then it will not do anything else. Then what you have to do, you have to say that, okay, usage geom points, then it will put the points. Actually, it will take the values and it will put the points. Okay. Now, instead of this, say, let me just try something else. Instead of points, should I say line? If I just say line, and let us see what happens. You can see that this line is being drawn. Consecutive lines are being joined. Now, does it make any sense? Probably it does not make any sense. But is it correct from the point of view of grammatically correct? The answer is yes. In terms of grammar of graphics, it's perfectly fine. Grammar of graphics has no problem drawing this graph, because it satisfies all conditions, and it rendered the graphs. But whether the graph is meaningful or not, that will depend on us. So we have to apply our cognitive skill, whether if I am drawing this line graph, it make meaningful or not. Of course, it is not meaningful. So what we will do, we will just say not meaningful. Okay. Next, what else we can do here?
Sir, meaningful in what sense, sir?
See,
I mean, we see a trend that by increasing the horsepower, there's the miles per gallon is decreasing. So
right. So that's agree. But if you put a line here, typically it means some kind of consecutive behavior is there. Okay. But if you look into the data, these data are actually not in that sense consecutive.
so like I mean, you want to say that time series data will be
Correct.
like
Correct. So if you do a line plot for time series data, that probably makes sense. There is a natural, consecutiveness is there, a natural continuous process. Horsepower in that sense is the data that, yes, probably from an engineering perspective, probably there is some kind of continuity is there, but the data way it's being collected, there is no natural continuity. If you look into the data, empty curves, see, each row represents a particular model. The first row is Mazda RX-4, the second row Mazda RX-4 WAG, the third row Datsun 710, and so sometimes it's, and there is no natural, so I cannot say that, okay, yeah, if I would have created Mazda RX-4 5 different variant with 5 different horsepower, and rest of the things are exactly same, probably I would have said that, yeah, probably.
so like in time series we fix a geographical location and then
Correct.
plot the.
Correct. For that, for example, in the say nowadays this COVID-19 data is available, right? When I am looking at the time series of number of cases, say Tamil Nadu will have its own time series, then West Bengal will have another time series, then Delhi will have another time series, Hyderabad will have another time series. So that makes sense. And that time, if you are saying that, okay, on x-axis, I have a time, y-axis, I have a, number of cases or whatever, counts or something, and you plot them and you join them with a straight line, that probably makes sense. But in this case, I will be a bit careful plotting them with a, because generally line chart are preserved for time series data. Okay.
So can you explain what time series is?
So time series data, we have, let me see if we have, say, this air passenger data set is a time series data set. Okay. So this air passenger data that in 1949 January, how many, no, I think it's 100,000 passenger traveled through by air. February, March, April, May, June, July, all this way. Now, if you just plot this air passengers, so on the x-axis, it's plotting the time. On the y-axis, the number of passengers traveled by the air. Okay, so that these time series data, this is called time series data. When you have a data, effectively it's a univariate data. All you have that every month, how many passenger traveled by air, but it is marked by the time. Each number is being marked by the time. So on the x-axis, we are plotting the time. On the y-axis, we are plotting the number. On that time point, what was the number? And we are then joining them with the line, straight line. So that is typically called time series data. Okay.
So then can we generalize that any parameter of any aspect plotted against time is time series?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any variable plotted against time is a time series data. Air passenger is just one example.
Okay.
Like COVID-19 data will be a time series data. Okay.
Okay.
Like if you go to say COVID-19india.org, I think, yeah. So these are time series data. Okay, if you go little down, say, so these are all time series data. So you can see as I'm moving this along the time, it's giving me the numbers. Okay, so these are called typically time series data. So number of cases over time. Okay. 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 All right. Acha. So let me go back to the main thing. Okay. Now, what I'm going to do, let me just copy this and paste it here. Now, what I will do, I will see if I can put, say, some color following color following same. So there could be 4-cylinder cars, there could be 5-cylinder cars, sorry, 6-cylinder, and there could be 8-cylinder cars. In this empty cars dataset, there are 3 kinds of cars. Some are 4, some are 6, and some are 8-cylinder cars. The 4-cylinder cars are marked with the so on the x-axis is still horsepower. On the y-axis, I'm still plotting the miles per gallon. But now each point I'm looking at whether this particular car whose horsepower is below 100 and miles per gallon is 35, whether it's a 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, 8-cylinder. If it is 4-cylinder, I will put a red color on that. Okay. So that's what it is doing. Now, tell me how many variables are there in this plot?
3.
Exactly. So I'm using color to present another variable. Okay. All right. So let me just this is fine. This is working perfectly fine. All right. Next, what I'm going to do, I will use actually better to write CAOLOUR, then you will not actually not make a mistake. Otherwise, sometimes I think one advantage of ggplot is it's take the exact name. So that is one of the advantage. We should use that advantage. Yeah, it is taking the thing. Now what I'm going to do, maybe acha. Whether V shape or not, maybe we will put a shape there, shape equal to so the horsepower, cylinder, and displacement is there. Maybe V shape. Okay, factor V shape or not. So if it is V shape, then it will be triangle. If it is not a V shape engine, then it will be a small dot. So now you can see my plot is actually has 4 variables. I'm trying to represent 4 variables with this plot. Okay. And then I can use size also as their thing. So maybe I'll put a gear here. So now you can see how many cases are there. How many variables? 5 variables. Horsepower, miles per gallon, number of cylinders, number of gears, and factors. So maybe I'm not sure. If I put it as a factor, that will be slightly different. Let me just see. No, it can take factor only as a, okay. Size for a discrete variable not advised. Okay, size they're saying we can instead, that means size is all has to be continuous. We can give, instead of size gear, we can give some other variable, like say displacement, which is a continuous variable, complete continuous variable, or rear axle ratio. Let us use that. Okay, let's see how it does. Yeah. So that's how, but one, I mean, what is your opinion about plotting 5 points in the same variable? Simple, I mean, 5 variables in the same plot.
Becomes very clumsy to interpret.
Exactly. So you may feel that I'm plotting too many, I'm trying to make it a very, you know, a zazzy thing, but actually it's making very clumsy. So too much information, I mean, there is a natural, you know, kind of barrier that after, if you maybe 3 variables, okay, but after 3rd variable, from 4th, 5th variable, you will see that it becomes very clumsy. So you have to keep it in mind that you should not make too clumsy. Okay. All right. So next, what I'm trying and what I'm thinking is, you write, you take 5 minutes and write the code for, so there is this diamond data set. This diamonds data set you have, maybe you can take the caret and the price as 2 variable and write a code, and one of you then take 5 minutes and one of you then can present the code. Okay. So now it is 11:26. So we can reconvene at 11:30. So try to write the code and we will reconvene at maybe 11:30. So do you want me? Okay, let me just share the last piece of code with you on the chat box so that you can modify this code. Okay, I have shared the code in the chat box. Now modify this code for diamond dataset. And okay, all of you take whatever variable you want, don't share. Okay, all of the whatever variables you want, that will make very different plots, and we will see what are the different kinds of plots are coming up. Okay, that will be a fun thing to take care. Okay, I'm pausing the recording. It's okay there. I mean, if you are feeling that shy of not sharing, then don't worry, because there is no right or wrong in visualization, to be honest. You can do something, it can be meaningful. If you, it cannot be meaningful, but it's okay. But you have to keep trying. I also do many things, probably does not make much sense. Sometimes it does make sense. That's how typically we try do the analysis. So who would like to share? Yes, so Abhirup is saying it's taking a lot of time to generate the graph, probably because of the size of the data set. I agree. One thing you can do, you can subset the data set by taking first 1,000 rows. So that you can do quickly like this. I'll show you how you can subset the data set. So you can just say diamond sub to diamonds. Just take one each to say maybe first 1,000, comma. So that means first 1,000 rows will be picked. To do that, and then run the data on the diamond underscore sub. Okay. Who would like to share now?
Sir, I would like to share this.
Who is it? Avirup?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me make you co-host so that you can able to now. I made you co-host, so you should be able to now share. Okay, you have done a lot of stuff. All right. So what have you done? Acha, you facet also did. Okay.
So, sir, this was the initial graph, and it was very difficult to like figure out, interpret the things. So I removed the scatter and replaced it with the smooth lines. And SE equals to false basically removes the scatter. So this is, I mean, I'm sorry, this is much easier to interpret. And then
wait a minute. The first one is the first plot, and then you did a smooth with AC equal to false. Okay. AC equal to false means standard error equal to false. So it will just plot smooth
yes,
based on and color. So you put color equal to clarity. Okay. So fine. And then so by when you are saying smooth, basically what it will do, it will fit a smooth non-linear curve. Typically, as far as I remember, some lowest curve or something, there is some non-linear regression technique that it does in the back end.
yes, sir.
And then you also did the facet wrap. So facet wrap is basically but here you change color to cut. Okay.
Yes, sir. I mean, the faceting was done on the basis of clarity. So
Clarity. Yeah. So by faceting, that is what exactly faceting means. Basically, it will create a subset, and on the subset, it will draw a graph. So there are about 8 categories of clarity. So for each version of clarity, it create a subset. And within each subset, it uses the color equal to cut, and based on the cut, it fit on different kinds of regression line. So all of you understand what Abhirup is doing here? Anybody have any doubts?
The facet wrap thing, I didn't understand.
The facet wrap. Okay, I'll explain it.
Could you go over the entire thing, like from smoothing itself? Like what is smooth?
So smooth is what it does. So let me just share my screen. Okay. So if you can stop, so can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, let me explain you what smoothing is. So what I can do, I'm just going to use a very basic plot of empty cars. Okay, so horsepower. So let me just attach the horsepower versus miles per gallon. So this is my actually point plots: horsepower on the x-axis, miles per gallon on the y-axis. Now what I can do, I can fit a linear regression, suppose fit linear regression miles per gallon as a function of horsepower. Okay.
I think you have to use SR, stats SR.
What?
I think you have to use. Oh, okay, okay. So LM is already built in.
Right. Then what I can do, I feel like I can put a color equal to red and line width equal to 2. So here what I have just done, I've said that, okay, you fit a straight line. Okay. So using these points, it will fit a straight line. Now, instead of straight line, it can fit some nonlinear function also.
Yes.
Smooth is doing that, exactly that thing. It's fitting a nonlinear curve on those points. Okay. It is not plotting the points in the diamond. So if I just say, if I run this thing, let me just run it. So when I'm saying that, smooth, if I do that, then what will happen is SM00, I think. Yeah. So exactly that is what it is doing. You understand? So when I'm saying smooth, then it's, and then what you can do, you can put the geom points also. So instead of straight line, it's plotting the points. So instead of straight line, I'm putting the what is called, I'm drawing a smooth nonlinear regression line.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. I think if I'm not mistaken, I think you can do some change and that makes it a straight line also. I'll figure it out. Actually, I did it few times back, but I forgot how to do that. I'll figure that out. If you do this AC equal to false, so AC stands for standard error. Based on the standard error, it will create this confidence band. You see this gray area? This gray area stands for confidence. Is called the confidence band, and that requires standard error to be calculated. So if you do AC equal to false, then it will just draw the smooth line or nonlinear line. So it uses, so it's saying that using method Loess. Okay. All right. So you can try this same thing on the diamond data set also. And if you want to reduce your time, you can do it on the sub data set. Instead of running on all 50,000 points, you can do it on the 1,000 points or maybe 5,000 points. Okay, so try these things, play around with these things, this diamond data set. And next day, what we will do, we will start with, or you don't have to take diamond data set. I will recommend some of the data set. So what I will do, I will make a small assignment where you can do these plots using this ggplot. This is just basic things, and try those things, and then I think that will makes you to draw the plots much better. And then we will move on to the other kind of plots that we can do. Okay.
Okay.
Sir,
Yeah.
sir, if we take the first 1,000 or say 5,000 points,
Mhm.
we might miss some.
That I agree. We might miss some features. That is possible. But if I
Say,
was,
like in the data set, say first 1,000 points
I
are
understand that. I understand.
color. I mean,
No, I
clarity
understand. Yeah,
thing.
no, I understand that. But if it's taking too much time, depending on the RAM size of the computer, not everybody has the same kind of RAM size. So depending on the RAM size, if you feel that your RAM size is a little low and it takes a little bit more time, you can, instead of 50,000, you can take 25,000, first 25,000, or or 20,000. So that will probably cover most of the points. Okay.
So can you explain that AB line which you used? I did not get that.
So this is old function called AB line. What is AB line? So effectively you can write y equal to a plus b times x, right? A straight line can be represented as a plus b times x, correct? So I can write it as this, and then I can think of, okay, maybe I will draw a AB line where whose A is equal to maybe, I don't know, 30 and B equal to -1. I don't know even it will be shown in the graph. It's not even coming. So just let me see how much. What are the values? Okay, let me just put it as 0.05. Let me see if it comes. So it's drawing a graph line. Okay. So then you choose another AB line. So what you can do is basically you can do A equal to 29 or 29.5 and B equal to -0.04. So it will draw another line. Okay, so there could be effectively millions of lines that can you draw. Then this LM function, built-in LM function, it uses sum of square errors, minimize the sum of squares of errors, and try to find the best least square estimate or ordinary least square estimate. The ordinary least square estimate is the 30.09 and B is the -0.06. So if you just give AB line this fit, it takes that also, or you can just give AB line as whatever your estimates. You can just give coefficient A equal to 30.0986 and B equal to -0.06823, and I'm just giving a different color. This is the best fitted line. When I'm saying best fitted line, by method of ordinary least square method or minimizing the sum of squares of error. Okay, so that's what the AB line is doing. Okay.
And like what method does Geom's smooth function uses to
I think
fit a nonlinear regression?
I think it's a lowest regression. Yeah, I think it's lowest polynomial regression fitting. So You can fit, I think, fit, if I'm not majorly mistaken. So what you can do, you can fit lowest yeah, so fit, it does fit this way, but how to predict these numbers? Then fitting and drawing a line using lowest could be bit, I don't know, I have to figure that out. How can you draw that? But to the best of my knowledge, I think Geom Smooth, because if you run this thing, it says Geom Smooth using method equal to lowest and formula y tilde x, that means HP as a function, or I think MPG for as a function of HP. So my y is MPG, right? And x is HP. First one will be x and y is this. I think so. Yeah. And then you can give, this is the data. So I'll share this code with you guys. So y, the formula is y as a function of x. So it means MPG as a function of HP. They use the method lowest. I think there are some other methods also. So, okay. All right. Any other question, comments?
Sir,
Yes.
I was facing a problem while installing ggplot2. It is showing me the warning message that installation of package ggplot2 had non-zero exit status.
Okay. All right. Which operating system you are using?
Windows.
Windows. In Windows, you do a couple of things. First, you install a package called DevTools, and I give the name DevTools. Okay. Then actually, I have to give it to everybody. Just right. Okay. DevTools. And then in Windows, there is a package. This package only works for Windows. That's called install R, I think. I think install R, or just check it in Google. Okay, and then in using that, if you to implement, if you try to install the ggplot2, then it will work. If you still have the problem, drop me an email, and probably we will set up a separate time and we will try to figure out the installation issue. Okay.
Sure, sir. These two are the names of packages, right? We have to install this in RStudio only.
DevTools. DevTools is a development tools package, basically. So, and make sure then if this works, generally, if you have DevTools on your package, or check if DevTools is already installed. If it is there, then any problem is solved automatically. If it is not there, just first you install DevTools. So, and then there is a package called install R. That is very helpful in installing the R packages. Once, if still it is not working, then we have to, then we will set separately and we will try to fix it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Okay.